The prosecution in the Oscar Pistorious trial in the High Court in Pretoria says it has a large number of formal witnesses still to come after it has called all its lay witnesses. The second week of the trial kicks off at 9:30 this morning. Security guard Peter Baba, who was in the dock on Friday, will continue giving evidence. Baba is the ninth witness. National prosecuting spokesperson Nathi Mncube says they've divided the state witnesses into three categories. To get the latest on this, we cross to our reporter who's been on the scene the whole of last week and will continue to do so. Good morning, Griselda Lewis.
Good morning, Yevon.
Monday morning, I think people have sort of had a weekend where they've gotten over Oscar Pistorious a little bit, but we restart this week. Just tell us about the mood there, and also just tell us what we can expect today.
Well, Yevon, the media contingent here certainly hasn't dwindled. Oscar Pistorious just walked inside the court about 5 minutes ago to clicking cameras, as was the case in the first week, trying to get the best picture of Oscar Pistorious while he walked inside the court, looking very composed with his legal team and talking to some of the people who accompanied him inside the court. So the situation here still as was last week. A lot of media still camped outside here. It's still one of the top stories around the world, the Oscar Pistorious murder trial. But what we're expecting this morning is for Peter Baba, the security guard who was on duty on the morning of Reeva Steenkamp's killing, to be cross-examined, that cross-examination to continue. We're expecting during the course of the week maybe more security guards to be called, as well as some forensic experts who the state is hoping will be able to discredit Oscar Pistorious' version of events of what happened on that Valentine's Day morning. Well, we're expecting as well the defense to continue with its two key arguments that Oscar Pistorious was the one who was screaming on that morning and not Reeva Steenkamp calling for help after he had realized what he had done, and also the issue relating to the cricket bat, where the defense seems to be sticking with the story that some of the sounds that the witnesses who so far testified who indicated that they heard sounds were actually, while there were 4 gunshots, the other sounds that were heard were that of a cricket bat when Oscar Pistorious hit down the bathroom door of his residence in order to try and save Reeva Steenkamp. That's what the defense is going with even in this week.
Griselda, you've been very close to this case, and over the weekend in some of the reporting that we've seen, the finger's been pointed at the media behavior and how the media have almost not behaved. You've been very close and in the court and so forth. What's your views on this?
Well, Yevon, I think Judge Masipa has really laid down the law in terms of what the media should do and what they shouldn't do. And every time I've been inside the court, an example of what happened last week when one of the iPads, the sound of the iPad went off inside the court, and Judge Masipa is having none of it. She addressed the reporter and told the reporter that should not happen again. Journalists have really been behaving. I mean, the media scrum that we saw last week is really not taking place here. Oscar Pistorious and his legal team are just walking into the court very freely. Journalists are basically forming a line where to give way for Oscar Pistorious and his legal team to walk through. But the media has really been on their best behavior here. I think we had a bit of a close shave last week where the media had to be called to order several times. So I think the message is clear that in order for us not to jeopardize as well the way that the media continues to be given access, it's unprecedented for the media to be given such access to such a high-profile court case. So the media is really on their best behavior, I must say, Yevon.
Thank you very much for that contribution this morning, Griselda. I understand you've got to get into the court. Oscar is there already. Griselda Lewis will keep us updated as to how the story develops out of the North Gauteng High Court today. Thank you again. Now, Judge Thokozile Masipa has, for the second time, warned journalists to behave in the High Court in Pretoria during the Oscar Pistorious murder trial. Judge Masipa this time round went a step further and said any transgressors would be removed from court from now on. But as she was speaking, the clickety-clack of laptop keyboards rose from the gallery as journalists continued to write down her words, muttering from the public gallery, a laptop suddenly clattering while a witness testifying. a media house's use of a witness's photo last week, and then the use of flashlight photography in court have all tested Masipa's patience in week 1 of the trial. Now, to talk about the media coverage on trial, well, we are joined by the head of the company called Insight, Mr. Wadim Schreiner. Good morning, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Ewan.
Interesting first week. There's been a lot of toing and froing with the media. What's your take on how things have gone for the media in the first week? And can they get kicked out of the court, all as some people are saying?
Well, I think they've behaved surprisingly well, surprisingly considering the less than good behavior during the bail application. I think things were too hot back then a year ago. I think the media had time to think for about a year what to do, how they're going to approach the subject and what it would go and do. So I think surprisingly, yeah, I think this has been a good week for the media.
And what's your reaction to the sort of first week of coverage? Is it sort of what's been expected, this wall-to-wall Oscar live scenario?
Yeah, it's what we had to go and expect. And again, you know, there were opportunities to mess it up. There were opportunities to really focus on the sensational parts and speculate a lot. We saw very little speculation at this point of time. We saw focusing on the facts. And I think, again, that speaks great things about the journalism here.
Freedom of the press in South Africa has somewhat been under the spotlight, if not on trial. How have we performed this far, in your opinion?
Outside of the Oscar Pistorious case or inside it? No, I think there is no threat to media freedom around this Oscar Pistorious case. I think the rules had to go and be put down by the judge. She did. There were a couple of scares. If we were going to go and abuse that, we scraped by very narrowly, and I think we've learned our lesson. We are sticking to it now. So any other attempts to not to behave should not be seen as a restriction of the press freedom, I think.
The other thing that's also on trial, outside of sort of press freedom, as is always, is the South African justice system. How are we performing? What is our justice system looking like if you came from a different country, or if you viewed South Africa like this for the first time? How are we doing?
Again, I think we've improved significantly from just about a year ago, where there was great concerns. We had, you know, the investigating officer issues around this one. There was a lot of aspects in the bail hearing that put a very negative light. I think this time we are doing well, and I think that's very, very good for South Africa, because I think one of the concerns, particularly in terms of the image of South Africa, international media, international world, was going to go and be the justice system, and I think we're doing well. Some don't understand how it works, and I think there's a lot of explanation happening. That's good.
When we talk about justice, part of that argument is always access to justice. And we live in a world where the rich have more access to justice than the poor. How are we looking on that front here in South Africa with this trial? Does it look like if you're rich and famous, you've got a better chance of getting across the line, as it were, to use a pun in this case?
Yes, the answer is clearly yes, and I think all the other commentators have been saying about the same. If you have got more money, it gets you a better chance. It doesn't necessarily buy you freedom, it doesn't necessarily get you off the hook, but your chances are improving significantly. If you've got money, that's the case, however, around the world. So it's not necessarily a South African thing. However, in South Africa, with a great divide between rich and poor, which is much bigger than in other countries, it is quite normal to go and draw that conclusion. It is a danger. Again, it's something that we're going to have to go and see depending on the outcome of this trial. What we're going to go and make out of that, we don't know yet.
Finally, your business is called Insight. What are the unique insights? What are the things that we are not seeing about this trial that's happening?
Actually, I'm representing a company called Ornico. I'm the head of the insights of that department. But what insights basically means that we've got to go and look behind the stories. At the moment, it is very technical. We're looking at the legal aspects of the case. We're looking at the potential repercussions. But we've got to go and look beyond this. We need to go and look, what does it mean for the society in this country? Can people go and get any messages out of this one? We need to go and look how it impacts on the governmental aspects, about the legislative aspect. And we predominantly need to go and look what this court case does in terms of the overall perception of South Africa internationally. So there's a lot of insights we can go and draw. First week is too short. We have to go and wait for more weeks to go and come. But certainly those are the areas that we're looking at when we're looking at insights.
Well, thank you very much for joining us this morning. We'll have you back after week 3, and hopefully you'll be able to give us a bit more unique insights. As it were, vielen Dank und alles gut. Wadim Schreiner.
Gern geschehen.
Thank you for joining us. Of course, let's take a quick look at what you are what you are passionate about on social media at the moment. Of course, it's been buzzing for more than a week with the Oscar trial, where he's been judged and found innocent already within the first couple of days of this trial. But let's have a look at what you're thinking today.